Alright, so UFC 276 is over, and overall, the card was a bit of a letdown, honestly. I'll start out by saying the main event, Israel Adesanya came out dressed up as The Undertaker. He did that whole entrance, that was pretty funny. But by the end of the show, I was kind of rooting for Jared Cannonier to get like some crazy upset win just because the main card was so boring. Like, aside from the Robbie Lawler versus Barberena fight, I was just out of it for the main card, I guess. The Volkanovski Holloway fight was pretty good, but Volkanovski just kind of showed up and dominated. Max got a pretty nasty cut on his eyebrow. And yeah, Volkanovski had a pretty powerful message at the end of it. He was saying, "Don't let anyone doubt you, yada yada." But yeah, the main card, it starts out with Sean O'Malley and Pedro Munoz, and Sean O'Malley could not control his weapons. He kicked Pedro in the cup, and then later in the fight, poked his eye. Pedro couldn't open it. The fight got called. And the Pereira Strickland fight, oh my god. The Pereira Strickland fight, I think, has given me depression or something. I don't know, it sucked the life out of me. That was so quick, and it made me sad to see that. Sean didn't really get to do anything, man. But Adesanya versus Pereira hopefully won't be a boring fight because, oh my god, Israel Adesanya. I I'm, I try to be, I try to like Israel, okay, but some I don't know. People, he has a lot of popularity with the fans, and that's not something that I would turn away from. I'm not one of the types of people to get put off by someone who has a lot of popularity just because they have popularity. But in the ring, unless he gets like some sort of early finish, he's just so boring to watch. He expects his opponents to kind of play into his game plan, which I don't know. I don't like that fighting style. Ultimately, like, I don't dislike Israel. He seems like a cool guy. I try to look for reasons to dislike him so I can kind of get more into his fights. But on the microphone, he just seems like an alright guy. And in the ring, I just don't like his style. I don't think it translates well. But Pereira versus Israel should be a pretty cool fight. But yeah, the prelims and early prelims I actually really was into. I thought going into the main card that the early prelims were just getting started and the main card was going to kind of step up and go on a next level, but it really didn't. It kind of stepped down, and like I was really disappointed by the end of it. I'll quickly run through all the other fights. We had Jalen Turner, quick upset over Matt Riddell. I think he rocked him on the feet and then submitted him. The guillotine, I think it was. Not sure. But speaking of guillotines, before that, Jim Miller got a guillotine on Cowboy. That was a pretty fun fight. I enjoyed it. I failed to mention in the predictions video that Jim Miller versus Cowboy was actually going to decide the man with the most wins in the UFC. Jim Miller got that. Cowboy actually retires and left his gloves in the middle of the ring. Before that, we had Ian Gary. He did Ian Gary things. He kind of fights similar to Izzy for me, so I'm not really into Ian Gary that much. Brad Tavares versus Duplessis. Oh my goodness, that was quite the fight. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. Brad in the first round, he came to fight and he was decimating Duplessis. I was actually getting really worried there. I was like, oh man, this guy's not as good as I thought he was. But then the second and third round, Duplessis just comes out throwing bombs. I mean, I guess he was throwing bombs in the first round, but now they're landing, and Tavares has one hell of a chin. Respect to that guy. That was crazy. We had Uriah Hall versus Muniz in the main event of the early prelims. Thought the fight was alright. It was good grappling. Got to see some good grappling work. I didn't dislike it. It was a fine fight. Speaking of fine fights, we had before that Jessica I retiring against Macy Barber. that fight was pretty fun. I quite enjoyed it. And surprisingly, that Jessica Rose Clark fight in the Storlenko one, Storlenko actually picked up the win. She dropped Jessica, I think, and then jumped on her and submitted her with an armbar really quickly. That was actually a nasty armbar. You could see that thing went the wrong way. So my final thoughts on the card, I thought Robbie Lawler versus Ryan Barberena was the fight of the night. Thought Strickland and Pereira was the knockout of the night, and Tavares actually and Duplessis might also be the fight of the night. It's one of those two, but yeah, my heart is broken for Sean Strickland. Where do I see him going from here? I think fighting Jared Cannonier is what's next for Sean Strickland. It makes sense, either him or Derek Bronson. And yeah, Alexander Volkanovski, I want to see go up to lightweight and face Charles Oliveira or Islam Makhachev for the title or someone. I want to see Volkanovski go for champ. He looked so good tonight. I quite enjoyed his performance. But yeah, ultimately, I was during the prelims and early prelims, I was thinking this card had the potential to become my favorite card of all time. I thought it was, at the moment, if the main card went well, sitting probably at the second behind the Usman Covington 2 card. That one is my current favorite card that I've ever watched. But yeah, this one ultimately, just because of the main card, kind of lost a lot of the steam I thought it had going in, which is really disappointing, honestly. You know, I had high hopes for it, but it wasn't a bad card by any means. I may be sounding negative here. That's just because I had such high hopes for it going into it and in the build up to the main card. But that's about all I gotta say, though. So if you have any thoughts on this card, make sure to leave a comment, subscribe, all the usual YouTuber mumbo jumbo. I'll catch you guys later. Peace.